Today, we're talking about something that's quietly building on the horizon, a prediction for 2026 that could pose an unprecedented threat to India. And no, it's not about a war or a new pandemic. It's a massive weather event, and it has a really dark history. Okay, let's get right into it. To really understand what's coming, we first have to go back in time, all the way back to the year 1877. It was a terrifying summer. Across what was then British India's Madras presidency, millions were dying of starvation. The roads, the villages, they were literally lined with bodies. And here's what is just staggering. This wasn't just happening in India. At the exact same time, a brutal famine was ravaging northern China, killing up to 30 million people. Brazil was suffering from a terrible drought. And all across Africa, from Egypt to Ethiopia, people were starving. It was all happening at once, across totally different continents. So, what was the common thread? What could possibly connect all of these disasters? It wasn't an earthquake, it wasn't a war. The root cause was a natural weather event that started thousands of kilometers away, off the coast of Peru. Local fishermen had a nickname for it, El Niño, which means the little boy. But in 1877, this was no little boy. The phenomenon became so extreme, they called it a super El Niño, and it was responsible for tens of millions of deaths. And this is why we're talking about it today. Nearly 150 years later, Europe's top weather forecasting center is predicting that the largest El Niño in over 140 years is on track to hit us in 2026. Some experts are even calling it a potential mega El Niño. So in this explainer, we're going to connect all the dots. We'll start by digging into the science behind El Niño itself. Then, we'll look at the dangerous combination of factors that makes this 2026 prediction so different. From there, we'll zero in on India's specific four-layer crisis, uncover the real human cost behind all the numbers, and finally, and this is important, we'll explore what we can actually do about it. Okay, first things first. Let's get a handle on what El Niño actually is. It all starts in the Pacific Ocean, which is basically the engine of our planet's weather. And the key players in this engine, they're called the trade winds. You can think of them as giant, predictable fans that are always blowing from the Americas towards Asia, right across the equator. So in a normal year, it's a pretty reliable system. These strong winds push all the warm surface water in the Pacific westward, piling it up near Australia and Asia. That warm water evaporates, it forms clouds, and you get reliable rainfall. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ocean, cold water from the deep comes up to the surface. Everything's in balance. But during an El Niño, those trade winds, they just give up. They weaken, sometimes they even reverse. So that giant pool of warm water doesn't get pushed west anymore. It just kind of sloshes back into the middle of the Pacific. And this completely flips the weather script. The rain that should be falling over Asia now falls over the ocean, leading to really severe droughts in places like India and Southeast Asia. Now look, an El Niño is always a big deal for India. But the event that's predicted for 2026 is not your typical El Niño. It's uniquely dangerous because of three factors that are all hitting at the same time, a combination we've never really seen before. Okay, so here's the trifecta. First, you've got the sheer intensity. This is a predicted super El Niño, strong enough to raise ocean surface temperatures by a whole 2 degrees Celsius. Second, the timing couldn't be worse. It's expected to peak right during India's monsoon season, exactly when the country needs rain the most. And third, the X factor, climate change. It's acting like a massive amplifier, like cranking up a heater in a room that's already way too hot. Let's break that down because this is so important. We have to start with our new reality. The entire planet is already, on average, about 1.4 degrees Celsius warmer than it was before the Industrial Revolution. That's the hot room we're all living in right now. Now, on top of that baseline heat, a super El Niño event comes along and acts like a temporary global heat lamp, adding another 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming to the global average. And when you add those two together, you get a temporary global temperature spike of almost 3 degrees Celsius. Let me be really clear about this. Modern human civilization has never, ever experienced a heat spike like this. So what does this unprecedented level of heat actually mean for India on the ground? Well, the impact is expected to hit in 4 distinct, cascading layers. It's like a domino effect. Layer 1, a weakened monsoon, with rainfall predicted to be significantly below normal. That leads directly to Layer 2, agricultural failure. And this is critical because over half, 51%, of India's farms rely completely on that rain. Layer 3, brutal, extreme heat waves. Scientists are already predicting that 2026 could shatter the heat records of 2024. And finally, layer 4, a direct economic shock. Less food means higher prices, which could drive food inflation up by as much as 9%. But these numbers, these percentages, they only tell part of the story. Beyond the statistics, this is shaping up to be a real human crisis. Now, this is a detail that is so easy to miss, but it's absolutely crucial. We always focus on daytime temperatures, but the real danger can actually be at night. During the 2024 heat wave in Delhi, day temperatures rose by about 1.8 degrees. But look at this. Night temperatures rose by a staggering 4.4 degrees. When it doesn't cool down at night, your body never gets a chance to recover, and the risk of heat stroke just multiplies. And this extreme heat creates this really cruel paradox. People who can afford an air conditioner can cool their homes, right? But what does that AC unit do? It pumps all the exhaust heat outside, which makes the air in the surrounding area even hotter for everyone else, especially for the 380 million people working in construction or as delivery drivers or street vendors who have absolutely no escape. And the consequences are just dire. One detailed analysis estimates that nearly 150,000 people die from heat-related causes in India every single summer. Let that sink in. To put that into perspective, of all the people who die from heat waves anywhere in the world, 1 in 5 is Indian. So you might be asking yourself, why isn't more being done? Well, a big part of the issue comes down to policy. In India, for a crisis to be declared a notified disaster, it unlocks government resources and compensation for victims. Cold waves have this classification. Heat waves do not. Now, the source material suggests this is because if they did, the government would be required to pay compensation for every confirmed heat death, a huge cost that officials have stated there are no plans to take on. Look, I know this all sounds incredibly bleak, almost overwhelming, but the story does not have to end in despair. There are very clear, effective things that we can focus on right now. So what can we actually do? Well, on a personal and community level, there are 3 really powerful actions. First, just basic community care. Stay hydrated, carry those oral rehydration salts, and offer water to people working outside. It's such a simple act, but it literally saves lives. Second, become a guardian for trees. A single mature tree can cool the air around it by up to 12 degrees Celsius. That's why protecting the old trees we already have is often more impactful than planting new ones. And third, go solar if you can. With 70% of India's grid still powered by coal, every home that installs solar panels is a direct blow to the source of the problem. This super El Niño will eventually pass, but the next one will return on an even hotter baseline, unless we act. And that leaves us all with a fundamental question. The children born in 2026 might grow up thinking a 45-degree summer is just normal. So what kind of future are we going to choose to build for them?